Moving on to number 10. Continuing with the 19 reasons why willpower fails. Here at Thoughts If It Were You. Food for thought by Gentrics. We're going to continue our morals here with self-control. Number 10. Sleep deprivation handicaps best efforts. You may have a strong will or a tremendous plan and great ideas, but if you're not getting enough quality sleep, it'll all be for naught. I'm going to say this right now. Research has shown that shorting yourself on sleep has the effect of burning out your cerebral circuits and a lot of other things as well. In a very real sense, our brain overheats without enough sleep, and the outcome is slower processing power, less mental energy, and hair trigger irritability when things don't go well. Not a prescription for willpower success. I'm just going to say that right now. Basically, it's like that computer you have upstairs that's basically covered in viruses and hasn't been maintained like it should probably be, i.e., I am a tech person. Number 11, underestimation of foods and other chemical effects. Go ahead and cover those too. I thought about it after I did it. If you're engaging willpower to break free from certain foods, dieting, for example, or anything else that's basically ingested, you're wise to recognize the power of your adversary and not forget it. Reason is kind of hard to swallow, no pun intended. Your brain is complicit in your failures, okay? The reason why these things are so hard to drop is that your brain's reward center basically it wants them, okay? It wants the dopamine release that they trigger. And it's not going to stop wanting it without a degree of hardships most of us underestimate. Knowing the reasons why your brain won't let go helps direct your efforts and helps you understand why you will experience failure probably more than once before you actually succeed. With that being said, number 12, the belief deficit. We spoke earlier about the brain and as a energy hog, if you will, back on the fourth item. But in another sense, it's an energy miser. If you don't really believe you can achieve something, anything, you're basically triggering an internal feedback loop that tells your brain not to allocate resources whatsoever. Like trying to install an operating system to a hard drive, but without allocating the space first, and it erases all your music on the second drive. Bottom line, if you don't believe you can do it, you won't. Granted, simply believing that you can do something is absolutely no guarantee that you can, but belief is a requisite condition for achievement. So, not an exhaustive one. If you want your brain to put mojo in your resolve, as some people say, you'd better believe that what you are doing is worthwhile. Otherwise, you might as well quit now. Number 13, we adapt to the consequences of quitting. Paul Bear Bryant, the storied football coach of Alabama Crimson Tide, once said, "The first time you quit, it's hard. The second time, it gets easier. And the third time, you don't even have to think about it." So, if the Bear had studied cognitive psychology, he'd have known that his wisdom isn't only satisfying, but scientifically valid. The reason is that we adapt to the sensation of quitting much as we do anything else. And the more we adapt, the less the sensation we experience. Whatever external consequences of quitting we may face, the one thing that stings the most is feeling that internal sensation. For willpower to work, it's important that quitting doesn't lose its sting. Like when you were younger and you disobeyed your parents and you got a butt whipping or worse, whatever it may be. For those who got punished when they did wrong. Going into the home stretch now, 14 out of 19 reasons. 14, lack of feedback promotes apathy. Another reason to keep a few trusted other looped into your plans is that you'll receive feedback on how well you're doing. Well, if you seek it out, that is. If, on the other hand, you choose to exercise your will in a vacuum, you'll lose on multiple fronts: lack of perspective, lack of accountability, and an ever-increasing sense of apathy about why you're even doing this in the first place. Research also shows that if you wisely seek feedback, the faster you get it, the better, because delayed feedback undermines performance. And get it as fast as you can and take it straight. It doesn't matter if it hurts your feelings, if it helps you move forward. 15. Imagined outcomes misdirect energy. Will pitted against rumination isn't a fair fight. Will doesn't stand much of a chance. Our capacity to overthink and drift into endless fields of rumination about the worst that could possibly happen saps the will from our bones. Our brains are extremely threat sensitive, which is inherently a good thing, but the more we ruminate about failures and loss, the more energy it diverts towards addressing the threat instead of achieving and overcoming. Will loses its edge before you even realize it's even gone, which hurts you more than it helps you. 16. Seduction of the chase obscures the goal. We intuitively know that the hunt, the biochemically fueled drive of our seeking brains, if you will, is frequently more satisfying than getting whatever we actually have been hunting. The problem is that it's easy to lose sight of why we're even doing what we're doing in the first place, and instead become lost in the ephemeral fog of the chase, if you will. When you no longer understand or recall why you're on the path you started down, your willpower is derailed. Direction is lost, and it's not easily regained. So staying focused is essential for willpower to get you there to where you were targeting in the first place. 17. The elusive loop of habit change. Trying to will yourself out of a bad habit is a classic tale of woe that we all know way too well. The problem isn't that we lack will, it's that we lack knowledge of how to apply it. As Charles Duggs explained in his book, The Power of Habit, habit changes in a 3-act play, if you will. That's the best way I can word that. A feedback loop that begins with a cue, leads to a routine, and ends with a reward. Smoking, as an example, starts with the cue of stress, leads to a routine of smoking to alleviate that stress, and ends with a reward of reduced feelings of, stress. Of those 3 things, the only one you can really change is the routine. You will always experience stress and always want stress relieved, but the question is, what routine will get you there? You have to consider this. Willpower can't stomp the routine out of resistance, but it can help you replace it with something else. On that note, number 18. All will and no technique. The most willful, resolved person on the planet still needs a practice, a tested method of accomplishing or overcoming the achieved success. No one wills themselves into a being of star athlete or a top professional without paying heed to best practices that direct their energy. Few people can simulate lost weight and get in shape without a seasoned practice to get there. Will may be the power, but it's nothing without the practice. You still need help. On that note, the last one is 19. Moral licensing is a get-out-of-jail-free card, more or less. All of us live on a seesaw, if you will. As I like metaphors. If we do something morally questionable, we feel a sense of balance restored. If we then do something morally laudable. Psychologists call this moral licensing, if you will. And it's endemic to our species. More to the point, it's a will-defeating dynamic because we can so easily adjust our standards to avoid the necessity of having to exercise will. All of us would benefit from taking a hard look at our seesaw of life, if you will, and whether we're seesawing ourselves away from the ideal self we're willing to be. And that's something that we all need to consider. These are things that basically hurt your self-confidence, if not hurt you as a person. And they should be skillfully avoided. Anyway, that brings an end to this episode. In the next episode, we're going to talk about how to build self-control. There are a total of, I do believe, 9 topics. I can't remember at the moment. And we'll cover them dutifully. and then we'll finish off this moral.